I found my way home across the Grand Mirage. Ever since
I'm Alison Argram, and this is the Alison Argram Show. Okay, some of you may recognize me as Evil Nellie Olson from Little House on the Prairie, but tonight I am Alison Argram, and this is the Alison Argram Show. And here on the Alison Argram Show, we talk about things that make you feel good, the TV shows and the movies that made us feel good, and the people who made them, and people who are doing things now to make the world a better and more interesting place. Now, I have a guest on, and okay, as soon as I mentioned yesterday during my Facebook Live that this woman was coming on my show, people lost their tiny little minds. They did. You went mad, and people just went wild because she's a lovely person. She has a very respectable career, many fine credits, numerous films. She's a singer and songwriter, and director and producer. She's done everything, but when she was young, had one television role that she has not really lived down. Okay, I kind of know something about that, and all I did was be cruel to stutterers. So, trigger warning, people. Yeah, parental advisory. We are talking about what has become really historically the most controversial episode of Little House on the Prairie, kind of ever. Yep, I'm talking about Sylvia. Sylvia Part 1 and 2, which at this point is become really kind of known on the internet as, I'm going to say it, the clown rape episode. Because yes, in this episode, this beautiful young girl is horribly attacked by a horrible man wearing what appears to be a clown mask, like making everything worse. And it's horrible, and she becomes pregnant, and Albert tries to like marry her and make everything okay, and it's all horrible, and she's murdered. Yeah, it freaked people out. It's still freaking people out. There are people who are very traumatized by watching this episode. It was a good episode. She was brilliant in the episode. But it's been hard for people. It's like almost 50 years, the show's anniversary. And it's like, wow, this show. I can tell you she did survive doing that episode. She has grown up to be a very nice lady. And I have her here on the Alison Argram Show live. Yes, I have the wonderful Olivia Barash. Welcome. Hi.
That was good. That was wow. You're good.
Oh, thank you. But how crazy is it? How crazy is it? Because I'm looking at your IMDb. You've had like an entire life, and it's like Sylvia. She was Sylvia.
It's been, it's really, honestly, that this is, Sylvia is the character that I am most recognized. It's crazy. I didn't know. I didn't pay attention also when I was a kid, when I was doing this stuff. Like, I just didn't. And I didn't watch half of my shows on Fame. It's like, but I started doing some research lately because I did this interview with Entertainment
Weekly. That was huge article in Entertainment Weekly all about this.
It got like the reviewer called me, and she sent me an email, and she said, "You are getting that interview has gotten you come in number 26 on Google search." And she said it was one of the biggest things that they ever had in entertainment. So she wants to do something now about like what I'm doing, the Viper Room, like all this stuff. It's cool. Oh no, did I lose you? Oh, so he's calling me now. Don't call me.
It's absolutely cuckoo. I am not surprised. It is so big. People talk about this all the time. They talk about the Sylvia episode. And you were a very prolific child actress prior to getting this. You hadn't even really paid much attention to Little House. As you said, you weren't paying attention to show business or any of this nonsense. Now, you started in New York. You started on Broadway. You're a legitimate theater child actress.
I started in the theater. It really started for me with song and dance. I was like, I was little. I was like, I was 2 years old when we got a baby grand piano in our house, and I went over. I do remember it. I was 2. I remember. I went over and I made up a song with 2 hands with trouble, and it was weird. It was like a kind of an Indian style. So I have no idea where it came from. I remember it now. I could play it if I had a piano now. And and then my mom and dad put me in Carnegie Hall. Like it was like that.
Boom.
And then I like won I did a recital. I took classical piano. I was 5 by then, and I played in Carnegie Hall, and I won for the best of my age group pianist in the United States.
Okay, because people say the old joke, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice. You were 5. You were 5.
Yeah, but I hated it. I dropped out. See, what happened was I
Too
didn't
much.
want. I played by ear. I'm just like, I just know I got the music in my soul, So I used to pretend that I was reading, and the teacher knew I wasn't reading. She'd play it for me first, and then I'd remember it and play it, and she knew I wasn't reading, and she'd scold me, and I hated it.
No. Oh no!
Her name was
Pressure.
Madam Spaghetti. Madam
Yeah,
Spaghetti
I
had a bunch of.
think it's like being a child actor is an insane amount of pressure, but like being a concert pianist at 5, like, yeah, no, I would.
She had a bunch of Pekingese. She had all these Pekingese dogs in there. She lived in Carnegie Hall.
She lived.
Where to God? Where?
So wait, you were in Gypsy. You were Baby June on.
Yeah, I didn't do it on Broadway.
Lansbury.
I didn't go. I was Angela Lansbury was my mom, and I did it. I did a theater in the round tour. It was right. I was too young to go to Broadway. I wasn't allowed, but I got to do the tour. Theater in the round was intense. I never did that before, and it was really what a great experience. We toured all over the United States, and
you were in a touring company. And how old were you when you're doing this?
I must have been 7. I think I was 7 because you had to be like 8. I was just underage to go to Broadway, and so I didn't. And then the next year I did another one. I did one with Ann Miller, the tap dancer.
Yeah,
she played my mom. She played my stepmom, and I was the only kid in that show. And then I think I won some kind of award. I won a New York Critics Circle Award for dramatic, and I was young. And then Annie and my mom and I were friends, and she had us come to LA. She was like, Olivia has to come to LA now. She's done all she could in New York. And that's
so you were technically you were discovered by Ann Miller.
Well, kind of. I mean, I did a lot of work before, and I did 55 commercials, and I did all this stuff. But yeah, she said you have to bring. She made my mom bring me to LA, and then we used to hang out at her house, and she had like fabulous home in Beverly Hills, and everything was white shag rugs and poodles. She had 2 white poodles, and it was like movie star. It was like, I mean, that was my introduction to Los Angeles, and it was great. It's interesting.
So you were working like mad pre Little House. You were in the movie, another one that everyone talks about all the time, Child of Glass. Child of Glass is one of those movies. It's like, oh my God, who was in Child of Glass? Everybody was in Child of Glass. Everyone talks about it. Yeah, hello.
That it's funny because I mean, it was a big thrill to get a Disney movie when I was, it was like, wow. And but it was one of the hardest things I've ever worked on because I didn't get to work with any of the actors. I didn't get to work with anybody. I played a ghost. So I played.
You're the ghost. You're the ghost.
The original title from the book. It's called "The Ghost Belongs to Me," and I was the ghost. And yeah. So anyway, I was on a wire belt the whole performance. They made me float on a wire belt, and then it was a blue screen in those days, not a green screen, a blue screen. So the kids went home, and I worked with the script supervisor. I never got to work with anybody except for one scene. One scene, I danced with Stephen Shaw, and I came to life, and I was like a girl, and I got to dance with him. So
you were already like this massive stage and screen and television veteran by the time Little House came along. Now, had you watched any Little House on the Prairie?
I don't think I did. I mean, I know. I was like, I didn't watch TV. I mean, I watched. You know what I watched though? And I was around the same time. I got a series at Paramount, and so I watched like Mork and Mindy, and I liked that comedy, right? So
was it Out of the Blue? Was Out of the Blue?
Yes, Out of the Blue.
Out of the Blue.
And that was. I mean, that was incredible. Mork was our guest star, the first. It was Robin Williams. He was guest star, and I worked with him close. I love and I adored him. I mean, I got to meet, you know what it's like. I got to meet like everybody. We got to meet everybody, and it was normal. It was kind of normal, but it was thrilling. So some of the people, like John Travolta, I met him at Paramount, and he danced with me. It's a slow dance. I went to the Gillies rap party on the lot, and he grabbed me, and we did a slow dance under a spotlight, a Western dance, and I was only me and him. I mean, that was like crazy.
So when you found out about this audition, now I was reading that crazy Entertainment Weekly article where you do go into depth about the whole thing about Sylvie in this episode. You mentioned that you drove yourself to the audition, which you completely were not old enough to be doing. What the heck? How old were you, and how in the hell did you have the car keys?
My mom was a little woohoo, and my mom was working. She was working. She took she got bored. She got bored of being a stage mother, and I was glad. I wanted to have her do her thing. So I drove myself, and I used to drive to the set. I don't know how that happened, but I drove there a few times.
Which is like, I mean, it's totally illegal at that point. Like, I mean, because I remember they were relatively strict on Little House. Some series they're like whatever, but generally, I know with maybe the kids, you're supposed to have somebody there.
No,
over
I had
18,
somebody.
like
Somebody. I
auntie
think
or
she
somebody.
showed up. I think she
You
showed
had
up.
somebody. You had someone to, but you could literally. People sometimes brought their 19-year-old friend and went,
Yeah.
my
No,
girl.
I had one of those
totally
out of the
happened.
blue. I had one. I had a 20-year-old girl. I wanted her because I was so this is so Robin Williams and I used to hang out, and nobody, the teachers did not want me hanging out with him because he cursed. He said he was always telling jokes, and they tried to keep me away from him, and I just adore. I had such a crush. Anyway, he used to have me meet him at a club called, and I was like underage, right? I was like 14 or something. The club was called the Candy Store.
Oh my God, the candy store.
Remember
Sunset.
it?
Yes, I forget what the hell it is now, but it was the coconut teaser and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Right there at Crescent Heights. Crescent Heights, that huge place. Yep.
So we had me meet, and I wouldn't let my mom. I didn't want my mom to take me, so we hired this girl, a young girl, and he used to have me meet him to play chess every night. I was his chess player. I was chess player.
So you were totally basically being the Hollywood version of a juvenile delinquent, kind of that like Drew Barrymore, like see, what adults? There's adults here. And this happened a lot. But I mean, I said Little House, you're supposed to, of course, have a guardian within sight and sound, and a grandma, mother, somebody. But there were people, as we know, who, when they got to be teenagers, just kind of went and showed up places.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's kind of crazy because my mom was really overprotective, right? But I hate, let her rest in peace, but I think she did some dopey thing. Like, she trusted me, I guess. I mean, she shouldn't have trusted me. I was like,
she trusted me. She shouldn't have, but then
I was really good on set. I was a goody two shoes. I portrayed like the Shirley Temple, right? And then I lived I lived a double life because I was really teased in school by all these kids that they used to call me goody two shoes.
Wow.
Like that was my nickname in New York, and then out here in LA, I went to Marymount Junior School. Oh my gosh, it was my idea. I wanted to go to one of the best schools, and I wanted to be with all girls. I wanted to wear the uniform. That was the whole thing. And
the outfit.
And it was treacherous. The kids. I was like the brunt. Me and there was another girl named Stephanie, and she was mentally disabled. We were the brunt of everybody's joke. It was horrible. And so I didn't stay. I didn't go to high school. I went to like junior school, and I wasn't liked by other kids because I wasn't there most of the time.
But see, that was the problem I had. I had friends because I had some people I'd known since the third grade because I, thank God, stayed in like the same school. But new friends, I kind of kept the friends from the third grade because like new friends, I wasn't there. I didn't make new friends. I'm like, I'm here for 2 weeks. I'm off for 3 weeks. I'm working. I'm back. I'm working. I'm back. And it's like, who are you? So yeah, it made it really weird. But so I guess because you were so hardworking, your mom went, she's a good working girl. What's she going to do? So how did you know how to drive at 14, 15. Because I mean, I
Okay.
learned at 15 and a half. At 15 and a half, I was totally
That's,
driving. I had to learn
I had
from
a
it. But
car. I had a car at 15 and a half too, but I did some illegal things. So I had these two girlfriends. I had older girlfriends, Christina Carlson and Elena Johnson, and they're friends with me on Facebook. And they were like maybe they were 16, I guess, and they like took me under their wing. And Elena was a photographer, and she'd take pictures of me. And anyway, they taught me how to drive, and I learned how to drive stick shift first. That was the first thing I learned.
it's from your friends, just on the side from your friends.
Yeah, I was driving a Bug, a stick,
You
and
drove?
then we would steal Christina's mom's car at night, and they let me drive. And it was called, and it was a big Cadillac. It was a big old Cadillac, and we called it the Ratty Cat.
Let's let the youngest drive. So you drove yourself to the audition for Little House on the Prairie. You just said, "Well, this sounds like a good part. I'll just grab the keys. I'll just go."
And when I was 13 or 14, I looked like I was 11,
Right, you
10.
look even younger. You had that little the baby, which made Sylvia so tragic because you were like
Yeah,
14, 15, but you looked like you're 9.
yeah,
So this is
yeah,
why it tore people's the hearts out. So
yeah.
you found out about the role and you thought, well, it sounds heavy. It sounds heavy because they said you didn't know about the clown thing, but you knew that sexual assault was part of it and that it was
Yeah.
this really heavy role. This kid, so what you thought it was a good part, and you just like said, I'm going for
I
it.
I wanted to because I was doing all comedy. Like I was really big with comedy, and I did that afterwards too. But that was my one dramatic role. You know what I mean? It was like that to me was outstanding. I really wanted to do that, and I'm trying to remember. I don't. It was really weird though. I don't remember the audition that well. And then I think, did I
What
audition?
did
I
you do?
know.
Did you read? What did they make you? What
I
part
don't
of it
remember.
did
I
you
mean,
read from
honestly,
scenes? That must have been brutal.
I kind of like, I kind of fibbed to the energy. I really, I don't. I remember the set. I remember being on set all the time, and I remember Michael crying behind the camera. Like I'll never forget that. He was one of my very favorite directors to work with because it was like because he's an actor and was like it was so great to work with him. It was emotional, and he made me cry. It was like I would start crying because he'd be crying behind the camera.
And that he did that a lot, and it did work. You couldn't watch
Awesome.
people cry and not start to break up. But he started to cry. It was just like,
I
no,
know it's
stop,
awesome.
no.
I know. And that was just the same way when Matthew, when had the deathbed scene. I was supposed to be dead, and I was crying. Like he made me. Oh my god, he's such a good actor. He's like, he just really. I mean that, and it's so great. And it's so great to work with great people. I mean, like that's key, right?
So as an actress, even a kid actor, so basically doing the Sylvie episode is as terrifying as it is for us to watch. As an actor, was a good experience. You're saying
Oh,
Michael was a director, and Matt, Matt Laboratory, obviously he's a very nice person. I can see where that would be helpful. That the chemistry and such, and the actor was so good that overall it was a positive experience.
it was a great experience, and I remember. I remember, and my mom was at the set. She wasn't not at it, but I know there's a couple times like she let me drive, but anyway, um, but she had a crush on my rapist on
That
Richard
sounds
Jekyll.
horrible. She had a crush on the actor who played the rapist in the show. Because that was just my mother had a crush on my rapist. Oh, no, no. Okay, yeah. So the guy, God, it was the
Richard
blacksmith,
Jekyll. Richard Jekyll.
Jekyll, who's
He
a
was a big an
nice
actor in
man.
the old years. Yeah,
Now, was he a really kind person to work with? Because what a horrible role. What? Okay, dude, here's your part for the week.
I
You
know.
have to rape and murder this little girl.
I know. Yeah, he's great, and so is now Royal Dano, the dad, my dad.
The dad, who was horrid in the episode.
I
The father, who is so horrible to his daughter Sylvia. She's been assaulted, and he just accuses her of everything and says vile, vile
he
things
calls
to
me
this child in this episode.
horror. He goes horror. He calls me horror. The whole thing. I mean, that was heavy. I mean, it was a heavy experience to act, but like the thing about it for me that was so great, and I'm sure you'll understand this, is that it was so easy. It was easier to act it. It was like it became real. It was like real because it was a very heavy. I mean, I like acting. I get lost. And what I used to do, I started at 5 years old, right? So I was working pretty steadily since I started, but I played with Barbies like a little bit late in life. Like I kept playing with them, but I had miniature dolls. I had a miniature room of doll houses.
Huh.
And I just lived in it. I just like would create all the scenarios with families. And I realized I was like acting. That was where my acting came, I think. I mean, or directing, I don't know. It's like, but I love to pretend. I love to pretend. That was the thing.
And so now both of them, Jekyll and Dana, who had to play the horrible father and the horrible rapist, were they obviously they were very nice. Were they very sensitive to this? I mean, because they had to
Yeah.
have felt weird doing this. How did they
Yeah.
talk about it? Were
I
they
don't
just
know. They never,
dressed?
I don't think anyone talked about, I mean, I'm trying to remember because it was weird. I mean, I think I remember that Royal and I would have, a heavy scene and then he'd like make sure I was okay after, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, it was intense. And it was abuse. It was like emotionally abusive. Did he strike me in it? I can't remember. I feel like he did, maybe. But I remember him calling me a whore, and it was bad.
Yeah, he shakes her. He's throwing her. It's bad.
It was, and everybody thought, everyone thought if he was the guy.
Right. We all thought it was him until it was the blacksmith.
Yeah,
Yes, we did.
yeah. Until the blacksmith came along, but it was, yeah. I mean, it was. It was such a, it was a sad, yeah, it was a sad episode. Like, what, I mean, I think about it now. I'd love to see, I haven't seen it in so long.
You have not seen it in years. Okay, now that's interesting. Like that you haven't watched it in a
I
long
have
time.
not seen it in so many, I mean, a lot of years.
Because that's the thing. People who watch it, there's people who watch it, and the big trauma comes from okay, Little House on the Prairie. Most of the time, it was a nice show. Nice things happen. There might be a tornado, there might be locusts, there might be, but not right. So people were very, very young people. People tell stories about like, oh, I was 9 and I sat down to watch it. My parents didn't even check to see what I was watching because it was Little House. And they went, and then I went, what do you mean parental advisory? What, Sylvia? What? And next thing they know, they're watching this and people were like traumatized. And there's people who say, I can't go back and watch it. There's people who watched it recently because it's so brilliant. But I introduced you my friend by email, Pamela Bob, who did this thing, Living on a Prairie, about a woman who's obsessed with the show. One of the scenes in her sitcom is this woman trying to explain to a guy why Little House is a really heavy show. And she's, you don't understand. You don't understand the topics they did. They did racism, they had drug abuse, they had clown rape. They had clown rape. And it's like, wait, what? And it's people who talk about, they go, well, the clown rape episode, did the part with the fact that this guy had a mask, how freaky was this to shoot? Did this disturb you?
Well, get this. I had a fear of clowns when I was a kid.
No!
Yes, I did. So no, that's great. That made it really better, easier for me. Like I ate that stuff up. But yes, I had I was afraid I would cry and scream when I go to the circus. And then my parents didn't know when I was little what was wrong. It was the clowns. I was terrified of the clowns because they're scary.
A lot of people are afraid of clowns. They're kind of weird.
So you were
already afraid of clowns, and then you did this show.
Yeah.
Did this screw you up for life?
I don't know. Maybe, you know what? Maybe that's it.
That was it.
I know, but I mean, so I touched on this because I didn't remember a lot. And then doing this interview, I touched on this stuff. It's like, yeah, I had a weird time after kind of, I mean, I didn't associate it with my role in Little House, but it may have been because people people watch stuff and like Repo Man. That's the other thing I'm really popular from. Like I like there were a couple boyfriends of mine. Like I didn't know at first that they were like this guy lives in New York, John Paris. I loved him, but he was like staring at me, and I just thought he really liked me, and he was staring at me because I was the girl in Repo Man, and that kind of upset me. That kind of bothered me, But I know now that it's all part of me. It's all like that's who Olivia is,
Okay, and that's what I wonder, because I mean, I've had to obviously with Nellie Olson, it's absolutely impacted my life. It's worked out well. It's worked out in a good way. Ultimately, I think it was a great character and it was really funny, and I enjoyed doing it. But obviously, this has to have impacted. I mean, obviously, we talked about that, like impacted your career because you played a lot of very quirky indie movie stuff, like Repo Man.
Yeah.
But on your personal life, did you have a problem with like meeting people who had this Sylvia thing in their head when you would go to make
I
friends?
guess a lot of people didn't say it. I wasn't aware of it. And of course, it was like one of the most popular shows in the world. So like, and everybody, like people, I mean, to be on 2 episodes and get stopped in the street, like you're Sylvia, like it was weird. Like a lot, and still today, right?
Right.
So, but yeah, I had a thing. I mean, I think maybe it did have something to do, like with boys. I had weird relationships. I had some like weird. I didn't have like and yeah, it wasn't. But a lot of it had to do with like not being there around. I wasn't one of the kids always. Like I mean,
So how much of it, right, was just being a child actor? And
I think that's
having
it
that
too.
whole thing and all the other stuff you were doing, and how much was Sylvia? Now you did have the weird repercussions. You've said you've had like, and we've even seen it on Facebook. We've seen it ever. The strange fans, the weird fan mail. Your mother had to like not let you read the mail because obviously there are disturbed people who saw this and would write to you as a kid.
Yeah, I was being written from prisons, like from cons. Yeah, like you could see the mail. Like my mom she would not let me see the mail, and then also it was a combination of convicts and healers, the religious people that wanted to save my soul. Now the thing that got me about that is like, but I died, man. Like, so you know that, like, I died. My character died.
You're dead. It's like you died on the thing.
But a lot of people just didn't want me to die. You know what I mean?
No.
It's weird. So yeah, but that was the combination. It was either convicts in prison who wrote me, like men, older men, and or like lifesaver. I'm gonna save your soul. Religious, very
that
religious.
poor girl, but her character was murdered. So, and she's an actress. So, yikes! I mean, I thought, I just when I think like, well, I had it weird because of that. No, that nobody. I don't think anyone had it as weird as you. I don't think anybody got the mail. You were dead.
Yeah, no, I think so. I mean, I didn't know, I didn't realize that, but I think, I now there are some roles of other people, like Laura Dern, not to be in Blue Velvet. Like then when we go older, I wanted to those are roles that I wanted. There's a couple roles that I wanted. There's 3 I can think of that I didn't get. And Laura became one of my best friends. She became my best girlfriend.
I love her. I love her. I did meet her.
She was best friends. But I wanted to be. I auditioned for Paul Herman's Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and I wanted to be his girlfriend so badly.
Right? And very you.
And I was a little bit too young. I was a little too young looking, and so I didn't get it. But I guess this happened because I just had a memory of it, and I thought this was so wild because I adored him. I adored that show. Pee-wee's Playhouse was like, forget it. I got to go. He invited me to Pee-wee's Playhouse, and I spent the day with him. He was in his pajamas, and he had me in his dressing room, and he was Pee-wee Herman. And I just got to be there and observe, and so that was cool,
Well, now Repo Man, absolute Repo Man, has resonated through the ages. Everyone's still talking about that.
Yes, that's that was me going against the grain because my agent told me not to go on the audition.
Again, running away and sneaking out to these auditions.
So I went, and they were like, don't go. It's on a Sunday. It was on a Sunday in Venice, and it was in the garage. They screen tested me in the garage, which is now Justa, which is like this really cool restaurant. But anyway, I was and Alex Cox kept me there for a while, and he screen tested me. I was supposed to read for the punk rock girl, for Debbie's role, and I did, and then he said he brings me a script, and he goes, "Would you mind looking at this role?" And he goes, "It's really for a 40-year-old woman who's supposed to play this role, but Layla, but I just want to see what you do with it." And I read with Dick Rude. Dick Rude was the punk rocker, the skinhead boy. And I was like scared of him. He was so intense that I was a little bit scared to work with him. And then I went to England. I just went after the interview. I went to London, and it's a weird story. This is a weird story. So I'm trying to think, how did my mom let me go to London? I was like 17 or 16. I was young, and I went alone. It was my first holiday alone, but I moved there, but alone. And I actually really I followed a person in a rock band. I hunted him down. I was a groupie, and so I mean, and anyway, he was my boyfriend from Bow Wow Wow, Lee Gorman from Bow Wow Wow. So I went there, and I was like, it was like ridiculous. And then I'm thinking, how did my mom let me do that? My mom, okay, so my dad left home. I tried to keep them together forever, and it didn't work. And I also was a sick kid. Nobody knew this, and I'm telling you now. I was a really sick kid. I had a disease called ulcerative colitis that I got when I was 7 years old. And then, and it was under control with like medication. It was really heavy. And then by the time I turned 16, I went into Cedars-Sinai, and I didn't come out. I was in there for 2 months. They didn't know what was wrong with me. And I had pancreatitis. And
how old? Pancreatitis
16,
through how old?
16.
Oh my
and
God.
then, so it's a disease found in older aged alcoholics.
Yeah,
and
it's
like,
pancreatitis. So people in their 60s get pancreatitis.
Right. So they didn't test. They kept me in there. I was in there for 2 months because they tested me for everything else, and I was testing negative. And they didn't know. And then my doctor said, "Let's just do that." And they tested me, and I got transferred in the middle of the night to UCLA. I came up positive, and they took my colon out. but the doctor saved my life. So this doctor is at UCLA, and he actually was Gary Coleman's surgeon also. And I was signed over there. And so Norman Lear, I worked with all those. I knew them for a year. Like I went to school with it, Janet Jackson, all those kids. But Gary's life was saved by this doctor, and mine was too. So he saved my life. I never told anybody. Nobody ever knew. Me and my mom said it's going to be our secret.
Wow.
And so anyway, I had. Okay, hold on.
So on top of all this, you're like leading multiple lives and flying to Europe.
This is in between 17 major abdominal surgeries. 17. So I did my parts. I did a movie or a guest star in between surgeries, and nobody knew. Nobody knew. You didn't know, right?
I know.
Nobody knew. So yeah.
Okay, I have to ask because I'm always asking these like work permit questions, child actor questions. How the heck did you keep a work permit? Because I had to go to the doctor every 6 months, and he had to sign a thing. Go, yeah, she's fine.
Oh wow, that's right. I don't know.
Work permit. You had to go school. The principal or the dean or somebody had to go. Okay, they're not flunking. You had to have reasonable grades. You could get C's, but you had to be not flunking out, and you had to be pronounced, quote, healthy enough to work. How the heck were you getting out of surgery and then going to get that work permit?
I guess we just didn't tell anybody. I mean,
somebody cheated. I think someone cheated.
Yeah. I guess we didn't tell because nobody knew. Nobody in the industry. Nobody knew. I mean, people that I knew didn't know. My friends knew though. My friends knew because, I mean, it was okay. I'm gonna just like tell myself because I'm gonna write my memoirs at some point soon, hopefully. And so I had a colostomy bag for 6 months at 16 years old.
As a kid,
and that's the worst thing. As a 16-year-old girl, I mean, it's like it was like that changed. That really messed me. That was like, I mean.
Okay, so this is what you're like. What, Sylvia? Big deal. You had a colostomy bag at 16. You survived that. Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, I got story. I got some story. I got some story, and then I became addicted to opiates through the hospital stays. I was addicted to Demerol. But then I come off it. Then once I was out of the hospital, they give me methadone pills. We didn't know what they were, but I mean, I think that a lot of it that proves to me that addiction is so psychological, because once you know that, it's like I didn't know when I was a kid. I didn't know about that. I didn't know about addiction, and so my mom would just take me out. I would get off the methadone like it was not a thing, but it became a thing. But that was something I battled with later in life, and it was all related to my hospitalizations, and then I got clean and after 20 years, of that. So it was like
Wow.
Yeah, there's some stuff.
It's a freaking miracle you're alive.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, people say that, and it is, and I should realize I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's miraculous that I survived, and like a lot of people these last 4 years particularly. But like right before the pandemic, I had some real tragedy in my life. But it's like, yeah, I mean, I don't know how. I like, there's something. I mean, maybe I believe that there's a reason. I don't know. I don't know. But I know. It does help people. I can help people that to like believe in stuff that they didn't think that they could do. Like I've done that, but I'm kind of tired of being like, I didn't want to be strong. Like I've been being told like through the pandemic, like you're strong, you're gonna be okay. Because I have no family now, no significant other right now, and I just like I wanted to be weak, like for a while. Like I wanted to be, but I guess I pretend I am, but I'm not. So
Well, you're completely amazing. And then, but on top of all of this, you also sing. You also write. You were in the Doors movie. You played this folk singer. You have a song in the movie
as
about the
my
Doors.
yes. Okay, so what I say is, I mean, it started with music for me. Like I was singing Sinatra songs at conventions that my dad had, and I would not eat my dinner unless they would let me sing with a band. Like it was like that. And
I'm
so
not eating unless I get a gig. You put me up with the band, or I don't eat.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I really meant it. And so I would go up, and I was like young. I was like 3, 4, and the band leader would lean down to me and he'd say, "What do you want us to play? Mary Had a Little Lamb?" And I go, "No, Lady is a Tramp in key of E." So
Rosemary Clooney. That's
I love. Well, my dad is a snotcher. He's love, and he taught me every song, and I love Sinatra. So and then I'll just come back. I've gone so many tangents, I know. But my dad left home. I was in the hospital. It was my first surgery, and I came home and Daddy was gone. And that was lame. That was just not okay. No, no, nothing. Just like he wasn't there and stuff was
he
gone.
just disappeared.
Yeah, he moved to Venice. He wasn't so. But we lived in Santa Monica, like right on the edge of Venice, and I was a surfer too. I used to surf with the Dogtown boys. I was the only girl at that point to surf with them. But yeah, my dad moved to Venice, and then I got mad at him when he moved away to San Diego because he had a girlfriend and he lived for her, and then I felt like he left me. I didn't talk to him for a lot of years. But anyway, after my dad left, okay, so then my mom left when I was 16. It was weird. It was like my mom adored me. I was my mom's world. And I just want to preface this by saying my mother had a great loss. When I was little, when I was 4 years old, we lost my brother in Vietnam. And it really just like it completely, it changes people. And I didn't really understand it. I was too young. I didn't really, and I understand more now, but that happened. And then she put me into show business. It was like, I was her joy. But I felt the responsibility to make my mom happy, which was kind of messed up. Right. But
This
I
is
didn't,
very common. This is very common with the child actors. This is
I mean, I just didn't, but I did love it. I've got to say, I loved it when I was in New York, when I was little, young, and then I loved it for some of when I was in LA. But really, I just wanted to start surfing and like not have to leave and go to like I wanted to be a kid then, and I didn't get to, and then I built resentment, at my mom. But she told me something before she passed away because I told her I said, "Mom, how could you like how could you not know and keep me in show business, which is like the most stressful? Like I was an actor as a child. Like how did you not know
and having surgery and then holding down a job.
how did you not know that they would like that it messed me up? Like how did you not know that? How did you not figure? Because she's smart, right? You know what she said to me? She said, if it weren't for your acting career, you probably would be dead because you wouldn't have been able to get that surgeon because of your health insurance. She kept me in the business because I had good health insurance. My dad wasn't the breadwinner. It was like that's it.
And it's bananas and like, oh my God, what? That's your freaking answer. But it's also true.
I
It
know.
was a survival. It was a survival thing.
I didn't even know. She never said anything. Like I didn't put it together. And then when
That's
she said it, I felt so
bananas.
bad. I felt bad, but it's like we don't, I mean, it's weird being a child actress, I mean, it's weird. It's like, it's different. I mean, we're different. We're
We
different.
are. But you act now. You're still doing stuff. You've directed, produced, and you're still doing stuff now. What is that like?
Well, that's new. The doing stuff in front of the camera again is new, very new. I'm into it. Like I didn't realize how much I loved acting or missed it. I guess I had a grudge or something. And when I went into music, I was like, I wanted to be cool. I wanted to be accepted, and I didn't want my acting career to get in the way of my music career. Because back then, in those days, it was early '90s. It was not cool to be a rock and roll singer and an actor. It was uncool. Now you can do it. Now it's like it's great, but it wasn't when. So I actually exited the business. Um, like I said, I left my agency and I was done. And then I think The Doors was like one of the last things I did, and I wanted to sing. So I was up for a regular role. I was up for one of the girlfriends of Jim Morrison, right, of Val Kilmer. And again, I was too young. But and I read, and it was crazy. Oliver Stone, I can say it. I mean, everybody knows in the business. He only auditioned the women, the girls who had their sex scenes. He only read their sex scenes. I mean,
Yeah, it's all over town about the Doors. Yeah, the Doors auditions. It was like being a complete perv with everyone. Apparently, it
it was
was
so
just like the
crazy.
perv fest of the universe.
And
The
I
whole
and I
Doors movie.
I didn't care. I was like, I said, I don't care. Who told me about it? Wait a second. Not Christian. It was I'm having a senior moment. It was Patricia Arquette. Patricia Arquette was my friend. We were on an audition together, and she's like, Olivia, you should be in the Doors movie. And she goes, my agent won't let me audition for it because she knew I was getting out of the business, like I was going into music. And she goes, my agent won't. And then it turned out, and she said half the agents in town won't let their actresses go up for it. And she goes,
I didn't.
right. And she said, just go, she goes, I'll get the information for you. And and then I read, I went to Oliver Stone. I went right there. But yeah, it was like, they had a guy like a lookalike. I don't remember his name, but he was Val Kilmer's double, standing. And I had I didn't take my clothes off, but I, Oliver Stone talks on the phone when you're reading. He has a phone call. Has a phone call, but he put the phone down. He put the phone down and paid attention. And and then I knew he liked me. And then after I read, he didn't say, I don't think he didn't say anything. And but I knew he liked me. I could tell. And then I got home, like, right. We didn't have cell phones. I got home and I had a message from my agent saying that he really liked you, and he really loves you. And he wants to write you into the film. You're too young, but you're going to get written into the film. So, but then I get a call back. I was like called back like a month or two later because it was being a long prep. It was a big movie, right? And so I get called back, and I walk into the office. It's in Venice, and I walk into the office, and there's all these like 6 foot tall, drop dead gorgeous models, and they're all auditioning for my role. Okay, I was so pissed. I was freaked out. I wanted to be in that movie. And the deal was, and I had my band already, like we were playing out, and we did a Doors song, and it wasn't because of the Doors. It was like it just happened to be. So I was having my agent invite Oliver to come see me play, and he never would.
No,
So I'm standing there, and I'm looking at these girls, and I'm like, and then I see what they had. We had one line, and it was, "I love you, Jim." A groupie playing a groupie. I was like, okay, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. So I didn't know what to do. Oh, and then right before I go in, this one girl, beautiful girl, comes screaming out of Oliver's office, crying hysterically,
screaming and crying. Hello.
leaves. and he was doodling on her picture, and he drew something
This
not
is a
so cool.
horror show. We could do an entire episode about the horror of the Oliver
No,
Stone auditions
he
for the
was okay
girls.
with me. Like, he likes me. I don't know. So what happened was, I didn't know what to do, and I'm thinking, I want to get this, and I got to do something to stand out. And I had a guitar in the car. I had an acoustic guitar in my car, and I went to the car and I strapped it on my body. I just went and I walked into his office, and I said, they said next, and I walked in with the guitar on, and he looked at me like he was going to throw me out. Like, I knew he didn't know what was going on, and I said, I've been trying to get you to come to my band's shows, and you wouldn't. So I thought I'd just come and play for you here. And the big long silence, pause, and then he goes, "Okay, go ahead." And so I did, and then he stopped me like halfway through. He stopped me after the second chorus, and he started yelling at his really big casting directors. The directors, they were huge casting directors. I never ever auditioned for them again. And he goes, why the bleep didn't you tell me how damn talented she is?" And then he goes, "Do you want to sing in my movie?" And he goes, "You're gonna sing in my movie."
So that's why you're the folks. Okay. So again, listen, never be afraid to be assertive at an audition, because when everything's gone to hell and women are just getting sexually exploited at the audition and they don't care and they're just looking for bimbo, you have nothing to lose.
That's right.
So you go in with the guitar, just say, screw it.
I did it, and it worked. It worked, It's like, it was, I mean, I was kind of like, I mean, I didn't do that all the time, but I started doing stuff like that, and it's like, and that it works for me, and it was
I gotta
good.
know, I gotta know your stuff right now, because believe it or not, we're like almost done. I can't.
Oh my God.
Come on again. We'll do like 5 hours or something. I don't know. But so you have this insane thing called Barkville that I just saw on YouTube. These little dogs, and they're like talking and singing. It's the most absolutely demented thing. You created this. You produced this thing with the dogs. What is happening?
I don't know. I can't remember how I thought of it. I think, me and my ex, Dave Jordan, we used to watch these shorts from the 1920s, and they were called Dogville. And I kind of stole it from, but they used to dress up the dogs, and they would dub their voice. I mean, it was brilliant, but it was different. It was like, but I'll show you. I mean, it's fantastic. And so, but it wasn't good. They were cruel to the dogs. I think they put them on. They had holding their backs up. They walked.
Did something horrible to make them.
Yeah. But anyway, I love dogs, and I'm really good with dogs. I was a dog handler, and I was like that, and I wanted to work with the doggies, and so I just I did a pilot. I did called Barkville Comedies, and I shot it, and it had people in it, but people didn't end up being in the
right. The people didn't work. The dogs were better. So it's all the dogs. It's just all dogs.
I used people in the documentaries. There were people, because they told really intense stories. But the Barkville pup fiction, that was all just dogs. I want to bring it up. I want to bring it back. I really want to bring it back.
I saw it. So everybody go on YouTube, look at this thing, Barkville. It's
Barkville TV.
Barkville TV. You will pee your pants. This thing. So, okay, where do people find you now? Like you said, you don't have a book out, but clearly you need to. You're on Facebook. They can find you on Facebook. There's your IMDb. There's a bunch of YouTube stuff. There's actually some great YouTube videos of you singing and performing that are out there that I've seen. So we can see all your stuff. Where do we find you now? Do you have a website? Do you have anything?
I don't, because I took the pandemic kind of made me take a break. But I actually was developing a project. I have a documentary that I shot, like 45 hours of footage on the Viper Room. I don't know that we're doing. I was in development with it for a long time, and then I switched it up, and I think I want to do it as a narrative series and incorporate my documentary footage into it, the episodes. So that's what, and there's a pretty large company that my partner took it to them, and it happened right before the writer's strike, and they're sitting on it. They can't do anything, but so there's that, and I don't have a website. I'm writing. I have a project called The New Wave Murders, and that's going to be a film, and and there's people that may be interested. Like I want to get back and do everything again, act, and I acted on each in each shoot. Yeah, I'm like I'm starting to act again.
The two, what you got? Like there's a short and a feature, or something, right?
Yeah. I
Just
mean,
back to back.
just really cameo. You know, like doing cameos, and but I realized like people might cast me just because they want to cast. Like I didn't audition and stuff. It was just like random, and one person found me on Facebook, or I found him. Like we found each other, and I friended him. He friended me, and they said he asked me, do I want to be in his film? And it was a sci-fi. Really, it was really cool. He's in Berlin. He directed
That's
it
how
from
these
Berlin.
things start. I have been found through the most like weirdest ways in our fabulous, insane 21st century. I am
Yes,
just so like blown away. I mean, I knew about you and I knew that you'd gone into music and I knew that you'd done Repo Man and a bunch of cool stuff. But realizing that you triumphed for being a child actress and extreme physical illness and extreme loss of your family all at the same time, I did
yes,
not know that you
yes,
endured all of that. And
yes.
I'm really impressed that you have, talk about Survivor. Yeah, you got to do a book. I want to see the documentary in the Viper Room. I want to see the next things you do. I want to see more dogs. So we can
Yes.
find you on Facebook, and hopefully soon there will be a website and personal appearances and everything else. This is amazing. Thank you. You've been so
Thank
open
you.
and so
Thank you
unbelievable. Thank you for coming on my show.
so much. It was great. So great to see you. I can't wait to see you again in person too. That was really great.
And we shall now. We shall now.
I know.
We can. I've got all my shots. I feel like a dog. Rush.
Yes.
We will get together. Thank you so much. This has just been amazing. And yes,
Thank
ladies
you.
and gentlemen, yeah, Sylvia is still with us, and she's good. She's good. She's
I'm
made
alive.
it. Thank you. And this has been the Alison Arngrim Show, and I'm Alison Arngrim.
I found my way home across the Grand Mirage. Ever since departure.
Fan page. Oh, that's right. Oops.